It's Saturday, and welcome to another episode of POQ'd, your chronological guide to Nintendo's handheld consoles. This week, we're playing QBillion, Battleship, Boomer's Adventure in ASMIK World, The Sword of Hope, and Master Karateka. Let's start the show. QBillion DMG-QB, developed and published by Sita Corporation. Have you ever heard of QBillion? No, me neither. Have you ever heard of Sita Corporation either? You can be excused for that, there's a good reason. They apparently had a hand in Project Sylpheed on the Xbox 360, and Exhaust Heat on the SNES was really pretty good. But other than that, there's probably nothing you've played, unless you like Mahjong. If Boxel and Quirk are examples of how to make good brain teasers on the Game Boy, QBillion is an example of how to frustrate your audience in a very different way. On each level, there are a series of numbered blocks. The number represents the height of that block tower. The gameplay, like the overall presentation, is a bit lacking in depth. You need to push all the blocks on the screen to level 1, but you can only move them from a level 1 step lower. For instance, if there's a level 3 block, you need to be standing on a level 2 block to move it, and so on. As you progress along the stages, other little mechanics are introduced. There are shapes on some of the blocks that, when you line up 4 of the same shape, can be eliminated to clear the path for others. My biggest issue is the design choice. Maybe we can excuse the format being such an early game, but even so, what creative committee decided the block towers should be numbered? Would it have been so hard to present these puzzles in a pseudo 3D format? Having to imagine the heights of towers from a top-down perspective isn't something you should have to do. There's nothing else in the game, and they failed at it. You can't quickly work out a puzzle if you're constantly having to interpret how the pieces look. It's like trying to do a jigsaw with your eyes shut. It's so lazy, there's very little design on anything, and the music has no lasting appeal. Also, I don't know why the character is a mouse. I don't know why the mouse is moving these blocks around. And I don't know where cheese comes into the equation. Unless it's really cheap, I wouldn't bother with QBillion. I had to buy it in my quest to own every Game Boy title, and once this review's finished, it's going on the shelf for the rest of eternity. In fact, no, if I need to clean any of my systems, I'll use this cartridge instead of a Game Boy cleaning kit. The puzzle game to choose? Are you for real? Battleship DMG-NB, developed by Pack-In Video and published by Mindscape and Use Corporation in Japan. Originally called Navy Blue on its Japanese release, Battleship didn't see a release outside Japan until 1992, where it was repackaged to tie in with Mindscape's NES and Game Gear releases. This is a slimmer version of the board game. You place fewer vessels in a smaller 8x8 grid. At first, you not only have your single ship, but also other weapons depending on which ships you have remaining to you. A 2 and 3 rocket shot, as well as a 5 rocket shot in an X pattern, if you have your battleship remaining. There's also a radar that you can use to detect whether anything is hiding in a 2x2 square. You need to use these weapons early on. Quite often you can blanket a decent area that gives you vital clues as to the enemy's placements. Plus, you lose your ships, and you lose these weapons whether you used them or not. The game plays in a kind of campaign mode, in that you progress through 48 levels with a password system. Moving up the levels will increase the AI level, as well as giving you a greater variety of ships with sub-weapons, including aircraft carriers. The AI initially isn't the smartest. They'll often attack previously tried squares or go for single squares when you've only got a 2-square ship left. However, it does increase pretty well, until you're at a stage where luck is your biggest asset. All told, this is a very cool attempt at replicating and enhancing the classic board game. The additions are enough to keep you playing the whole thing. The sound effects are spot on, using the whole scope of the sound chip to the fullest. And oh boy, that battle music is superb. It could have come from some turn-based strategy RPG like Shining Force or something. The little firing and sinking animations are solid. They look great on the little spinach screen. This really took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting to like this as much as I ended up doing. Get it, it's great. Boomer's Adventure in ASMIK World, DMG-AS, developed by Duel and published by ASMIK Corporation of America and ASMIK Ace Entertainment in Japan. Stale as the trap-em-up genre might have felt by this point, Boomer's Adventure in ASMIK World is actually pretty good. You play a cute little pink dinosaur whose aim is to climb to the top of this tower. On each floor there is a maze patrolled by a multitude of creepy crawlies and other monsters, in which, somewhere, there is a key hidden. More often than not, it'll be buried, so you need to find it and dig it out. Not only are the enemies out to get you, but they also want to find and withhold this key, so they'll be digging around too. Pay attention to this if you can, because if they find the key before you, they'll carry it around, and you'll have to either attack them with a collectible weapon, or dig a hole and bury them in. Once you get the key, you can unlock the door to the stairway, and the level is done. You don't have to kill any enemies, they respawn anyway, but it's worth doing for the things they might drop. Scattered around the place are compasses, which you can use to pinpoint the direction of the key. There are also metal detectors, which beep if you're close. Also available are bones, bombs, and boomerangs, which can be used offensively, and a shovel that helps you dig faster. This is really useful because Boomer seems to be digging with T-Rex arms. It takes an age to make a hole, so you need to anticipate enemy movements and leave enough time. If you see eggs, get them because they're one-ups. If you can remember where the key is, it makes the level much easier. The location doesn't ever change, which means you should only really ever lose one life per level. The music is charming and the graphics could be worse. The inclusion of the bosses serves well to split the game up and breaks up the monotony of similar levels. If there's one criticism, it would be that the game is too hard. The number of enemies gets pretty overwhelming, and the speed at which Boomer does anything means you need to be totally prescient. It's not Hyper Lode Runner, though, which can only be a good thing.
Honey, where's Andrew?
He's playing Nintendo. You better unplug the system.
There you are, Andrew. Come on, let's go.
Dad, wait, I'm about to work.
Time to go. Lots of sleep. We gotta go, buddy. Come on, come on.
Dad,
Come on.
Dad.
Champ is waiting for us. Everybody's waiting. Come on, let's go. The bus is coming. Come on, come on. We gotta go.
The secret to Nintendo's success lies in bringing arcade game quality into the home. Taking it out of the home is another story.
You can take it to the lake. You can take it on a date. You can take it to a boring picture show. Ha! You can take it to the game. Ow! You can take it on a plane. You can take it anywhere you want to go.
Go with the power of the NES right in the palm of your hand. Game Boy, the state-of-the-art compact video game system for portable handheld video action. Completely self-contained, Game Boy features patented Nintendo controls, a cross-key joystick, A/B start and select buttons, screen contrast, and volume control. Powerful CPU and microprocessors allow complex scrolling backgrounds, hundreds of images, and exciting play. Digital stereo sound with personal earphones, battery, power indicator, Tetris game pack, and exciting video link cable. The video link cable allows simultaneous multiple player head-to-head competition with Tetris and other video link game packs. Accessories include an AC adapter rechargeable power pack and a carrying case. And the beauty of the system is that once you own Game Boy, you can change games as often as you like, simply by replacing the game cartridge. All this in a package that goes everywhere. And you can count on seeing Game Boy everywhere you look. Our multifaceted $15 million marketing support plan assures that in the second half of 1989, everybody who knows about Nintendo will know about Game Boy. That's nearly 19 million NES owners waiting to get their hands on this electronic marvel. They'll see it via an independent television campaign for hardware and software. They'll read about it in Nintendo Power magazine. They'll hear about it via Nintendo's player support program, including game counselor lines with over 100,000 calls per week. And they'll discover Game Boy themselves at World of Nintendo, where they'll find state-of-the-art in-store support with a full array of merchandising displays and fixtures. A wave of excitement is building up behind Game Boy. Climb on board, and you won't miss the ride to the next generation of video play. Here today, in Game Boy from Nintendo.
The Sword of Hope DMG-SE, developed by Kemco and published by Seika Corporation. Evil has overcome the once peaceful kingdom of Riccar. A mighty dragon has corrupted the mind of King Hennessy, encouraging him to withdraw the Sword of Hope from its painting prison, thus releasing the dragon to summon the dark powers of Mammon, covering the land in darkness and turning its inhabitants into trees. Who better to wrest the world from the brink of peril than young Prince Theo, a 15-year-old untrained whelp, who also happens to be the Twisted Regent's son? Well, probably lots of people, but Theo is who we're going with. There's a prophecy that needs fulfilling, you see, so it's got to be Theo. As you can guess, what we have here is an almost paint-by-numbers tropey RPG. It's linear to a fault. You fight a boss who gives you a key that opens the next section. You collect the things to get the other thing to kill the bad thing at the end. Not that this is a problem directly, plenty of great RPGs have a similar storyboard. However, in the Sword of Hope, there isn't a great deal of exploration. The maps are pretty small, with the game artificially stretched out, with a constant, unavoidable stream of enemies to face. If an enemy is in your way when you try to move screens, you'll have to fight it. Defeat it and you don't move screens, you stay where you are, meaning you can sometimes fight 3 or 4 rounds of enemies before being able to move. In a game without maps, this can leave you lost. The attack system is basic, and although you do have a wide array of magic at your disposal, most of the spells do the same thing. Certain enemies, bosses in particular, have specific weaknesses that you need to work out, giving a reason to use them all. Accuracy is not your strong point though, nor is it your opponent's. Either side of the battle can damage themselves or their allies, which gets frustrating, but works to your advantage when one enemy inexplicably torches another one with Fireball. While the scenery looks decent, the design of some of the enemies looks a little childish and could have benefited from a little more attention to detail. There are no attack animations, sadly. The opponent's images simply move up and down. I enjoyed the soundtrack. There's enough variation to keep it fresh, and the composition is solid. There are some decidedly surreal parts. When you track down these 3 magicians, you obtain 3 eggs of power from their pigeon familiars, which you need to find the titular sword. It's pure MacGuffin, why the power is in the eggs, and why the birds wait until you arrive to lay the eggs, once by hitting an ill-looking pigeon on the head to make it feel better, is not explained. Probably because there's no explanation to give that would stop this being a completely mad plot device. There are some Simon's Quest level cryptic parts that make just as little sense. Casting a spell in front of an altar to receive a charm, which you then wave at a seemingly ordinary looking pipe organ to turn it into a ruby. There's no real intellection in doing this, except that it tells you to in the walkthrough that you will have to use. Something that falls into the so bad it's good category, especially with some of these early Japanese to English imports, are the great blind idiot translations made famous by games such as Zero Wing and Metal Gear. The Sword of Hope has little in the I feel asleep league, but there are some gems nonetheless. Searching your surroundings for loot early on grants the narrative, you watch path, there's herb, and attempting to buy something in the shop that you can't afford gets you admonished with, Mister, you have not paid me enough for the gold. In a time before the internet brought people of all tongues closer together, you can excuse the translators. It adds to the charm of the game, and it's not as if you don't know what they mean. A personal favourite is the game's equivalent of a critical hit. You attack a vital part of the enemy. Delightful. It's not wholly fair to judge this game too retrospectively. Yes, the RPG clichés were already established by 1989, but they were by no means hammered into the ground. And The Sword of Hope doesn't abuse the formula, really. The graphic adventure layout is a pleasing choice which looks really good. It's a sweet little adventure with plenty of charm. Just don't expect anything you've not seen before. Master Karateka DMG-KRA, developed by Toze and published by Bandai Shinsei. You know that dream you have where you're running and running, but for the life of you, you're not getting anywhere? That's this game. Never before have I seen a game where your character moves so slowly. It's like plate tectonics level of slow, or like trying to get 50 pensioners aboard a coach trip kind of slow. You're this kung fu person who's trying to get to the end of this straight path to beat up the emperor guy, I think, but is for some reason still wearing his dojo robes. Not exactly inconspicuous, you pretty much only wear those if you intend to fight someone. Ninja-like discretion is not the aim here. Once you and your opponent crawl towards each other in what can only be described as the world's worst stop-motion film, you can punch or kick in 3 directions, but whether or not any hits register is governed by some quote-unquote coding that I've yet to figure out. Eventually, you'll kick the guy in the thigh enough, nothing else works as far as I can tell, that after a comedic 2-second delay, he crumples to a heap. Keep going along and you fight a boss, which then lets you get a bit faster or stronger. Do this twice more, fight various odd-looking bosses that seem to include Santa's Little Helper, kick an eagle in the face, and that's the whole game. You rescue the girl. Good grief. The jumbled mess of notes that constitute the music sounds like what happens when you leave Pro Tracker open on your Amiga 1200 and your little sister comes in and starts mashing the keyboard. It's an obscure reference, I know, but it really does sound like that. I don't see why Darth Vader has a karate robe on. I'm not sure why that pharaoh points at you. I'm beyond confused as to why these enemies form an orderly queue so you can kick them in the thighs one at a time. To be honest, I'm at a loss as to why this game is a thing at all. This is one of the most horrendous messes you could ever find. Fortunately, it only came out in Japan, so you probably won't ever accidentally buy it. Thanks for listening to the Portable Power Podcast. If you want to support the show, the best way to do so is on Patreon at patreon.com/portablepowerpodcast. Or subscribe on the YouTubes. We have daily uploads Monday to Friday, where you can watch me suck at the games as I talk about them. You can tweet me at POCubed or on any of the other socials you might expect. Thanks again and have a great weekend.